artists spend decades chasing fame and never find it. Others achieve immortality only after their voices are silenced forever. The music industry has a dark irony, success arriving too late. These are 10 bands nobody cared about until tragedy struck. Number 10. Nick Drake.
Bingo moon, gonna get you home. It's a bingo moon.
5,000 copies. That's roughly all any of his albums sold on initial release. Island Records kept the English folk singer on their roster through 3 commercially invisible albums between 1969 and 1972. Critics praised his delicate guitar work and haunting whispered vocals, but audiences simply never materialized. Depression consumed him completely. He withdrew from performing entirely and moved back in with his parents in Tamworth and Arden.
Someone's knew the meaning of the sea. I never held emotion.
In November 1974, he died from an antidepressant overdose at age 26. The coroner ruled it suicide, though family and friends disputed the verdict. 25 years later, Volkswagen used his song Pink Moon in a television commercial, and something extraordinary happened. Sales spiked dramatically almost overnight. Today, artists from Elliott Smith to Norah Jones cite him as a primary influence. His silence finally found its audience.
If it tells me all he knows about the way.
Number 9. Eva Cassidy.
I see your lips.
Before her death, she was simply a singer, performing at small clubs around Washington, D.C., spanning jazz, folk, blues, and pop while resisting any single genre label. No major label interest, no national touring. Her 1996 album Live at Blues Alley captured her remarkable interpretive abilities, but only devoted local fans knew it even existed. That November, melanoma claimed her life at age 33. Her extraordinary voice almost vanished completely with her. BBC Radio 2 DJ Terry Wogan played her cover of Over the Rainbow on his morning show. The station's phone lines exploded instantly. Listeners demanded to know who this remarkable singer was. Her compilation album Songbird hit number 1 in the UK in 2001 and has since sold over 12 million copies worldwide. She never signed a major record deal, never performed outside the Washington, D.C. area, yet became one of the best-selling artists of the early 2000s. All of it posthumous.
After your picture fades.
Number 8. Jeff Buckley. Columbia Records believed they had finally signed the next great voice in American music. His 1994 debut, Grace showcased roughly 4 octaves of range and emotional intensity that critics often compared to his father, the legendary Tim Buckley. The industry expected a superstar. Audiences delivered cold indifference. The album barely cracked the Billboard 200, a crushing commercial disappointment by major label standards. On May 29, 1997, he waded fully clothed into the Wolf River Harbor in Memphis, singing Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love as he entered the water. He was 30 years old. His body was found 6 days later. Grace has since sold millions of copies worldwide and appears on nearly every greatest albums list ever published. Radiohead, Coldplay, and Adele have all named him as a defining influence on their work. His single album became his eternal monument.
Hallelujah.
Number 7. Badfinger.
Baby, make it soon. I give my love.
Come and Get It, written by Paul McCartney himself, gave them a top 10 hit in 1970. The Beatles personally signed them to Apple Records, and they seemed destined for lasting greatness. Instead, they became rock's most tragic cautionary tale. Despite the chart success, their manager Stan Polly systematically embezzled their earnings while the band lived in poverty, watching helplessly as their royalties disappeared into legal battles they could not win.
All that time without a word.
In April 1975, guitarist Pete Ham hanged himself in his garage at age 27. His suicide note called Polly a soulless bastard who had taken everything from him. 8 years later, bassist Tom Evans, still fighting desperately for those unpaid royalties, hanged himself as well. The double tragedy finally forced the music industry to examine how managers exploited young artists. Their music endures, but their story remains a wound that never fully healed. Number 6. Joy Division. The night before their first American tour, frontman Ian Curtis hanged himself in his Macclesfield kitchen. He was just 23 years old. The date was May 18, 1980. The Manchester post-punk band had built a devoted cult following in England, but mainstream commercial success remained frustratingly elusive. Curtis struggled with epilepsy and a crumbling marriage while pouring his darkness into songs that would ultimately define an entire generation. Love Will Tear Us Apart was released just 1 month after his death. It became their signature song and one of the most influential singles of the entire era. The surviving members formed New Order and became one of the biggest bands of the 1980s. Curtis became an enduring icon for artists from Interpol to The National. His final act of despair transformed his band into something absolutely timeless. Before we continue, which of these artists did you discover before tragedy made them famous? Did you have that one friend who played you their records and insisted they would be huge someday? Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from.
Stand to the radio.
Number 5. Sublime. In 1996, ska punk barely registered on mainstream radio anywhere in America. The Long Beach trio had spent years building a dedicated grassroots following throughout Southern California, playing backyard parties and small clubs wherever they could find a stage. Their indie albums on Skunk Records sold respectably, but nothing more. No MTV rotation, no radio airplay, just loyal fans and a frontman named Bradley Nowell, whose heroin addiction was spiraling badly out of control. On May 25, 1996, Nowell overdosed in a San Francisco hotel room. He was just 28 years old. Their self-titled major label debut dropped 2 months later. It went 5 times platinum. What I Got, Santeria, and Wrong Way became inescapable summer anthems across the country. The band became one of the defining acts of 1990s alternative rock, and Nowell never heard a single second of his own massive success. Number 4. Graham Parsons.
But I'm the one who let you in.
Keith Richards praised him in terms usually reserved for the truly extraordinary. The Florida-born singer essentially invented country rock, fusing Bakersfield twang with rock and roll rebellion in ways absolutely no one had ever attempted before. He transformed the Byrds with Sweetheart of the Rodeo. He formed the Flying Burrito Brothers. He discovered and mentored a young Emmylou Harris. Yet meaningful commercial success remained frustratingly out of reach. On September 19, 1973, he died of a morphine and alcohol overdose at Joshua Tree Inn. He was just 26 years old. Then his road manager, Phil Kaufman, and an assistant stole his body from LAX airport and burned it in the desert at Cap Rock in Joshua Tree, claiming Graham had specifically wanted it that way. The bizarre funeral made national headlines and transformed an obscure cult artist into an immortal legend. The Eagles, Wilco, and the entire alt-country movement owe him everything. Number 3. Bobby Fuller.
Time goes by, it's passing fast. You think you love her, it's come at last.
A number 9 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Heavy radio rotation across the country. In early 1966, the Texas rocker seemed destined for genuine stardom. I Fought the Law had transformed him from regional act to national sensation in a matter of weeks. He was on his way up, but nobody knew yet just how far he could go. The future looked absolutely limitless for the charismatic 23-year-old with the infectious smile. On July 18, 1966, he was found dead in his car outside his Hollywood apartment, doused in gasoline. His body showed bruises, though the autopsy results were contested. The LAPD initially ruled it apparent suicide, then changed the official cause to accidental asphyxiation. The case has never been solved. The mysterious circumstances elevated him from rising star to eternal rock and roll mystery, and I Fought the Law became an anthem covered by everyone from The Clash to Green Day. His legend grew precisely because no one could explain his ending. Number 2. Sixto Rodriguez.
And word, my friend, I wonder.
Bigger than Elvis, bigger than the Rolling Stones. That's how incredibly popular he was in apartheid-era South Africa. But Rodriguez himself had absolutely no idea. His 2 albums flopped completely in America during 1970 and 1971, and he spent the next 40 years working as a demolition laborer in Detroit. Sussex Records went bankrupt. His master tapes gathered dust in storage. He assumed his music had simply been forgotten forever. Meanwhile, bootleg copies of his albums became anthems of the South African anti-apartheid movement. Fans there believed he had dramatically killed himself on stage in a final performance. The 2012 documentary Searching for Sugar Man revealed the astonishing truth. He was alive and still working construction. The film won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. Rodriguez finally toured the world at age 70, playing for audiences who had loved him for decades without him ever knowing. Number 1. Otis Redding.
Oh, you might now, if you know do it right now, you put your hand on the hill, yeah.
At 25, he had already conquered the Monterey Pop Festival. His June 1967 performance introduced the King of Soul to the white rock audience who had never truly heard him. He wrote Respect, which Aretha Franklin would transform into a feminist anthem. Try a Little Tenderness showcased his raw vocal power. The hits kept coming in the R&B world, but mainstream pop crossover remained just out of reach. He wanted that breakthrough desperately. On December 7, 1967, he completed the final overdubs on Sightin' on the Dock of the Bay at Stax Studios in Memphis. 3 days later, his plane crashed into the icy waters of Lake Monona near Madison, Wisconsin. He was 26. The song was released posthumously in January 1968 and climbed to number 1 by March, becoming his first and only number 1 pop hit. It introduced the world to a voice they almost missed entirely, and his legacy as one of soul music's greatest artists was finally secured forever.
All you got to do is try.